Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we are going to give you a quick rundown on the fiasco that is the Reconciliation Act, suppressors, SBRs, all sorts of things. Now, I told you we were not going to be doing play-by-play because I do not have the stomach for it. I do not have the patience for it. But you do need to keep checking out both Braden and Jared because they are giving you a fantastic job of giving you play-by-play. Listen, here's the deal. We did a deal at halftime right after it got out of the House. It's now in the Senate, and we're at the 2-minute warning. But things have changed significantly here late in the ball game. So let's give you a quick update, and let's talk about, are gun owners about to be let down yet again? Okay, America, listen, if you can't stomach watching the sausage be made like myself and you need a quick rundown, that's what this is. Link down below, however, are the content creators that can actually give you play-by-play, minute-by-minute updates of what's going on. Okay, the reconciliation process, H.R. 1, starts in the House. The Hearing Protection Act, Sections 1 and 2, are added to it and makes it out of the House, which would have actually, at that point, zeroed the tax out, would not have removed it from the NFA, but zeroed the tax out on suppressors. Gets to the Senate. Once it gets to the Senate, however, the Senate adds not only Section 3 of the Hearing Protection Act, which was going to be huge if you lived in states that required registration of a suppressor in order to own it lawfully, but they also added the Short Act to it. So now all of a sudden you guys are all getting teased that you might get suppressors and short barrel rifles removed from the purview of the NFA. Okay, so all we have to do is get through what? That's right, the Byrd Rule. The Byrd Rule is just this parliamentary procedure in which we make sure that since we're talking about reconciliation, we are only talking about revenue or expenditures, which was why the Democrats continuously calling these regulations a tax was huge, because theoretically and presumably and logically, they had painted themselves into a corner. And how on God's green earth could the parliamentarian actually strike that from the bill, because we're clearly talking about a source of government revenue? Well, enter Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, who, by the way, was appointed by Democratic Senator Harry Reid way back in 2012. And by the way, her Wikipedia page is very complimentary of her handling of President Trump's 2 separate impeachments. Now, can she, in fact, be fired? Yeah, she can be. She can be. Is it a bit of a nuclear option? Yes, it is. But has it been done before? Yes, it has. Go all the way back to 2001, when the parliamentarian Robert Dove was fired by then-ranking Senator Trent Lott. But hey, the Democrats have all called it a tax. It is a tax stamp. It was originally enforced by the IRS, so one would seem that it's pretty well within the Act of Reconciliation. But then, as a shock to no one, the parliamentarian then strips all of the great things that had been done in the Senate, which would have included complete NFA deregulation of suppressors and short barrel rifles. They still would have been governed under 4473s, but you would have not had to go through Form 1s or Form 4s, the enhanced background checks, and of course would have avoided the $200 tax stamp, and most importantly, would not have to have these items registered with the federal government moving forward. But now that the parliamentarian has struck these provisions from House Resolution 1, the Reconciliation Act, what are the options? Well, option number 1 is that they can just fire the parliamentarian. Is that an option? Is that there? Yes, it is. She can be fired. She can be replaced. Now, most of the people inside the Beltway who seem to have kind of an understanding what's going on and who the players are do not believe that there is a high probability at all that that will occur, that the parliamentarian will be fired. It comes as a shock to me that when power changes in the United States Senate, that the first order of business, it would appear to me, would be to change the parliamentarian. I mean, to the winner goes the spoils. And so the fact that this parliamentarian has now been the parliamentarian for 13 years is kind of odd when you think about especially the partisan nature of what goes on in Washington, D.C. Can the parliamentarian be overridden? Yes, it can. But a lot of people think that it can only be overridden by a majority vote of the Senate. Au contraire, it actually works differently. It's done through a point of order, and then the only 2 individuals that can actually override the parliamentarian would be the vice president, who happens to be the president of the Senate, that's J.D. Vance, and Senate President pro tempore Chuck Grassley. Has that occurred? Obviously, that has not occurred. And that is the option right now that I understand that many of the very vocal two organizations who have been working their tails off the last couple of weeks on this are really pushing for, because that is a less nuclear option than the other. Now, I know some of you got all spun up about what happened with Dan Crenshaw's thing. I think that Dan Crenshaw is playing a very good political game. I'm not always complimentary of Representative Crenshaw, but that deals with some transgender issues where the language that he amended, it's going to be very difficult for Democrats to stand up and kind of scream about that one. So they're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't on that one, which is a much different issue than here. Okay, now, option number 2. And this is unfortunately where things seem to be headed, is in the original House version, none of these items came out of the NFA. That is, you would still have to go through a Form 1 or a Form 4. They would still be registered and kept on file with the federal government. But it was going to be done tax-free. And so right now, the language that's being put back into it is a zeroing out of the tax. Which means, do you get everything you want? Absolutely not. Do you get a little bit? Yeah, you get a little bit, but we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, but here's the catch, okay, is that let's say they just decide to settle on this. We're going to leave it in the NFA, but we're just going to zero out the tax. The Senate parliamentarian can still strike that as well. They could find, again, it does not comport with the Byrd rule, and it can be stricken. And then what do we do at that point? Well, at that point, what we're going to be is either like Spalding, where we're going to get nothing and we're going to have to like it, okay? Or we're going to go back to either the mild nuclear option of overriding or the complete nuclear option of terminating the parliamentarian. But as we begin to kind of step back and take a 35,000-foot view on this, we begin to see some of the Second Amendment organizations, again, I applaud all of their work, essentially trying to sell the fact that maybe this settlement is the best way to go because we can at least get something rather than nothing. And I don't disagree with them at all, okay? And they also are hinting that this could lead to other bigger things in the future. And I think one of those bigger things that they're going to argue that it could lead to in the future is that by zero taxing these things out and making them much more commonly used, that we can then go after the NFA regulations and other bans based upon a common use test. Factually, legally, constitutionally, I agree with all that. But let's add reality to the equation as well. Because even if we turn out to be completely correct about all of that, how many years, if not decades, is it going to take to accomplish that when we have to slug through our court systems? Hey, don't believe me? How long has Duncan v. Bonta and Miller v. Bonta been going on? And so I begin to understand as I've watched this process why so many in the Second Amendment community are jaded. Because they get their hopes up over and over and over. And in this situation, there was this perfect alignment of stars. It could not have been any better to actually not only fortify Second Amendment rights, but advance them. And once again, many gun owners are feeling like it's time for Charlie Brown to kick the football. Unfortunately, Lucy's still holding it. So that is your quick rundown of what has happened over the last couple of weeks. We're going to go back to play-by-play with these guys right here for the final 2 minutes of the ball game. We'll be back after we know what the heck we're actually receiving, if anything at all. Listen, if you guys got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. But if you don't, that's okay. That information is down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, you click on that link right there and you tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, the ability to do that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.